great to see such a large turnout. We had a great turnout yesterday. I think it was just about standing room only. And glad to see that we have a full audience in attendance for today as well. So welcome to the Partnership for Disaster and Climate Resilience Conference. Again, my name is Mark Nguyen. I have the privilege of being your MC for today. As I highlighted to the audience yesterday, this is not my normal day job, so I'll beg your pardon in advance for any missteps or lack of humor during the course of the day. We have another very full schedule of events and speakers for sessions 2 and 3, which we'll be holding throughout the day today. Yesterday, we had session 1, where we explored some of the real-world examples and best practices from across the spectrum of resilience, from risk reduction all the way to adaptation, and examples from Japan as well as closer to home here in the Philippines. So today we'll be moving on to sessions number 2 and 3, presenting the case for resilience and also for building resilience in key sectors. So I'll offer a few administrative notes before we jump into the program. There's been several requests about the presentation materials. So after the conference, on Monday or later, the presentation materials will be posted on several of the sponsor websites. So that will be the Carlos P. Romulo Foundation for Peace and Development. It'll be on their website. Also the Zuellig Family Foundation on their website, and also the Manila Observatory. So you can go to any of those 3 sites after Monday to get access to the presentation materials. For those of you who like to tweet and desire to try to get the conversation, the dialogue going, we also have a Twitter address. I've already seen quite a few people tweeting from yesterday. So that address is #ResilientPH. Again, that's #ResilientPH for those of you tweeters out there. Also, if you've looked at your agenda and the program, you may have noticed that there's no breaks in the agenda today, except for a lunch break. We knew this would be such a riveting conference, and no one would want to miss any of this, so we've jam-packed it full. No breaks except for lunch. However, we do have the East Room open all day today, so during the course of the events, please feel free to make your way to the back for merienda, coffee, or refreshments. But we'll try to keep the program going on a pretty steady clip today. Also, in the same vein, since we do have quite a few speakers, I'll beg your pardon again in that the introductions and bios are going to be very abbreviated. We have published extensive bios for our speakers in your program. I'd ask you to refer there for your bios. But no offense is intended if I just keep with the name and title for our speakers today. All right, with that said, since we've got a full agenda, I'm going to turn over the podium for our introductory remarks. Again, I'd like to introduce to you Ambassador Roberto Romulo, who is the chairman of the Carlos P. Foundation for Peace and Development, also chairman of the Zuellig Family Foundation, and as I was reminded yesterday, also the chairman for AIG Philippines, and therefore my boss.
Thank you very much, Mark. You got it right this time. Ladies and gentlemen, I know that the traffic on McKinley Road is terrible, and you can expect the others to arrive relatively soon. So I'm basically the filler before the main attraction. Let me just say once again, thank you for coming. We are delighted with the participation, and we will continue to encourage you, particularly in the panel sessions, to ask any questions you want, both from the audience, the panelists, or the speakers. I regret yesterday, but we had a star speaking, namely Governor Joey Salceda. He took up all our time. But despite his kalokohan, the reality is he's a damn good governor, and I hope he moves forward in his career. He has done everything right in the context of resiliency. I'm not going to go through the summary of what happened yesterday. I think, though, that it's important for me to point out that we had Romulo-san, who spoke about Fukushima, past and present, and I think we learned quite a bit in that aspect. Then we had a presentation by the UNICEF Deputy Director, Dr. Alim, who fortunately was very frank and in his own way politely gave a public evaluation of how we perform, particularly the government. And he cited one instance where there are 9 mayors that up to this day, because of bureaucratic red tape, they have not gotten any funds whatsoever because of commission and audit requirements. And I told him to control himself because he has many more. I'll give you an example. He spoke to somebody in charge of rehabilitation, and he said, "Oh, don't worry, we're going to return everything back to the way it was." He said, "Oh, that's very good. In other words, malnutrition rate will still be 40%. And that's how blunt he was. But I think we needed somebody like him to speak like that. We were also fortunate to have the World Bank president. We were also who was very forceful in his beliefs and who will continue to support our endeavor. And of course, we had Governor Salceda, who, as I said everything right, although he was a bit verbose. Let me just say also that we had an excellent set of panelists. We had Aris Ali of CARD. We had Ernie Garilao of the Zuellig Foundation. We had Mr. Shane Wright from APDC. So it was a great beginning, and I hope today will even be better. Let me just say that I'm really, as I said, a filler. We will break for lunch, and then we will have panel discussions building resilience in key sectors, challenges, and opportunities for partnership. Once again, we'll have Joey Salceda, but this time, our moderator, Tony Ulo-Loisaga, promises to control him. The 2 panels led by Tony Loisaga, who is Executive Director of the Manila Observatory, and the second by Ramon de Macali, the President of Federal Phoenix Insurance. We will discuss what it takes when it relates to disaster and climate resilience in water, food and agriculture, energy, healthcare, education, livelihood, and infrastructure. This morning we have Mr. Jean-Pascal Van Ippercel. I apologize, I called him Jean-Paul yesterday. And also Mr. Stephen Groff of the Asian Development Bank. And we have Mr. Federico Piqui Lopez, the CEO of First Gas, who will also discuss it from the perspective of business continuity. So with that, I'll give you one more filler. It's a video clip.
The Philippines is a uniquely beautiful country. It is rich in natural resources and hosts a thriving, growing economy. We are situated in Asia, a region made up of the world's fastest growing economies. But Asia has also been one of the most disaster-prone regions in the world. Disaster placed us at the top of the global ranking of human and economic impact of disasters. Disaster experts at the United Nations University have identified the Philippines as third only to Tonga and Vanuatu in terms of risk to disasters. Our large population, institutional weaknesses in coping, and long-term adaptive capacity, persistent poverty, income inequality, inadequate infrastructure, and environmental degradation make us extremely vulnerable to earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, tropical cyclones, and floods. In the last 100 years, however, tropical cyclones and floods have been the leading causes of major disasters. And in a globally warmer world, changes in climate such as unrelenting increases in temperature, long periods of drought, and more extreme weather events will further threaten vulnerable populations, cultures, and our ecosystems, which are sources of food, water, and energy. Global climate change will have tremendous local impact on the Philippines. Atmospheric scientists have noted that while the number of tropical cyclones making landfall has not changed, we have experienced more super typhoons and extreme rainfall events in the last 30 years than ever before in our history. Compounding these events is the rise of sea levels all over the country. And while our climate is changing, the Philippines is also changing. This is most evident in metropolitan Manila's peri-urban boundaries, which are expected to include 25 million people by 2015. National policy supports concentrating a large number of assets and infrastructure in low elevation coastal zones, where we also draw water for domestic and industrial use. When combined, the shape and length of our coasts, land subsidence due to water extraction, tides, and sea level rise leave our cities exposed and vulnerable to floods and storm surges. Phenomenal economic growth and advances in science and technology have proven no match to rapid urbanization, environmental degradation, weak governance systems, and high income inequality. Being both income and shelter poor, many continue to live underserved in hazardous areas where each disaster only drives and increases their exposure and vulnerability. Have we learned from our history? Archival records show that we have been there before. Our pattern of development has generated and increased the cycle of risk and recreated patterns of exposure and vulnerability. As our environment changes, so should our society and our economy. And while we prepare for the century of hazards that we know and adapt to changes around us, we must transform the trajectory of risk and prepare for alternative futures. The private sector is uniquely positioned to drive this transformation. The Resilience Partnership will lead cross-sectoral dialogues to build a shared understanding of resilience in terms of preparedness, adaptation, and transformation. We will apply our core capabilities to address the current and future risks communities face and create a local yardstick for effective and sustained public-private, multi-stakeholder adaptation programs. Grounded by these local experiences and transdisciplinary mindsets, we aim to jointly identify new metrics and milestones for our disaster and climate-resilient Philippines. Today, we begin a series of dialogues to chart the roadmap to innovative, creative, and collaborative partnerships for resilience. We thank you for your presence and your commitment, and welcome you to our common future.
Forgive the narrator.